Good morning.
So wonderful to have you here with us in our garden paradise here at ParmathNiketan on the banks of Mother Ganga in Rishikesh. I'm so glad you've made it.
I'm so glad I came. So glad. And here today I'm going to be talking with a wonderful, caring, powerful woman leader, spiritual leader at this beautiful ashram. We couldn't let it go without having this interview. And Irvin, I want to tell you, both of us, we've been talking about you today and last night. This is for you and this is for the Club of Budapest. I want to tell you something about the Club of Budapest. So the mission of the Club of Budapest worldwide is to be catalyst of the transformation to a sustainable world through promoting the immersion of planetary consciousness, interconnecting generation and cultures, integrating spirituality, science, and the arts, fostering learning communities worldwide. For that, it was so close to our heart to do this conversation today.
I'm so glad that we are together.
Me too. Me too. So, Sadhvi Saraswatiji, called with love for her followers and me now as Sadhviji. Thank you for this space.
Of course. Of course.
So, I would like to start our conversation by coherence. How we can enhance coherence while we're doing all what we're doing, while we're acting, while we're in this world. How we can enhance coherence.
Beautiful. Well, coming back into coherence implies that things have gotten out of coherence, that somehow we've gotten out of sync, out of alignment. Coming back into coherence requires, first of all, us to be aware that we are one. A lot of us think, oh my God, well, my mind over here and my heart over here and my body over there and my stress over here, my spiritual practice over there, my job over here, my family over here, dreams over here, goals over there, responsibilities over there. And it's no wonder that we feel scattered. To come into coherence, we have to realize, actually, I'm not scattered. Actually, I'm not in pieces. Actually, all of these are different elements of the physical experience that this soul, which was never born, never dies, has no beginning, no end. There's no place I as soul end and you as soul begin. And so there's nothing to be cut or scattered. It's all one. It's like if you've got the ocean. Well, the ocean doesn't have to come back into oneness. The ocean is one, it's infinite. In the same way, when we realize that we are one with the divine, one with the Creator, one with all of creation, one with each other, one with everything. In that awareness, coherence happens. On a practical level, what we need to do is we need to stop identifying as the pieces. If we identify as one part, then I'm going to be scattered, because then I am separate from the other parts. So if I identify as anger, I am angry, or I am depressed, or I am a drug addict, or I am an alcoholic, or I am a failure, I am, too fat, too old, too dark, too fair, too, whatever. I'm identifying as a tiny little illusory even, peace. I have forgotten that actually the truth of who I am is whole and complete and full and infinite and divine. And so we need to stop mentally identifying as these little pieces that are not who we are. And so if we can start to understand, okay, the physical brain and this physical body, which in and of itself is just energy, space and energy. The electrical and chemical patterns that the energy is taking in this brain are flowing in such a way that scientists might term that, the pattern of depression. The pattern of anxiety. The pattern of stress. Or, this physical expression, mostly again of just space, this physical energetic expression, whatever size or shape it may be, whatever its history may be, wherever it may go, whatever it may do, that expression isn't who I am. Who I am as soul, as spirit, as consciousness, as love, is just flowing through this idea of my physical expression. But I need to stop identifying as that. I need to start identifying not as the individual separate pieces, not as the individual ideas based on a size, a shape, a color, a history, an ability, a bank account, and start really identifying as that infinite oneness. And when I do that, then coherence automatically happens. There is coherence in that energy of us when we are not illusorily identified as just a piece, when we're not trying to stick ourselves into a box.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Now, this question is for all the breath worker in the world. My name is Viola Edward. I am a psychotherapist, mentor, and breath worker by heart and by profession. We've been working for years and years to go into that message to the world. One breath, one word. Inspiring solution. Soon, hopefully, we will have the International Conscious Breathing Day on the 11th of April. Meanwhile, we will celebrate it all around the world. Let's keep our heart together and let's go into one breath, one word. Yesterday, I was listening to your speech and you're sharing with us about what you said before and about the thinking and how our mind is so wonderful and how it can take us to one place and to another. And I wonder, and I want to ask you about breath work, conscious breathing, how important it is for meditation and for so many other activities that we do in our world.
Beautiful. In Sanskrit and in the science of what we call yoga, the breath is referred to as pran. Now pran, or prana, as in the West people tend to say, isn't just an exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. It's actually the energy of life. It's a divine energy. And so as we breathe, we speak about that prana that is coming into us from the universe. All of the energy in the universe, we know from science that the energy that we have today is the energy that was created at the time of the Big Bang, right? Mm-hmm. Now, that energy is all still here, just taking different forms in different ways. But we have access today in every breath to all of the energy that has ever existed. And our breathing is that way through which we interact with, energetically, the universe around us by taking in the breath of creation, the breath of the universe. We take it in. We exhale it back out. It's breathed by a tree who takes in that carbon dioxide, gives the tree what the tree needs. The tree gives us back the oxygen. But along with this exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, we are exchanging the energy of life, pran. So working with pran, or what is called pranayam, variety of different, an almost infinite variety of different ways of working with the breath, is considered a critical, really core aspect. Spiritually, in yoga, in the 8 limbs of yoga given to us by the sage Patanjali, the foundation of yoga is yam and niyam, the do's and don'ts, what you could call sort of the 10 commandments of a spiritual life, a yogic life. Then we have the physical postures, the asanas. Then we have the breath work, pranayam. And then of course we move deeper and deeper inward into pratyahar, dharan, dhyan or meditation, and ultimately samadhi, that ultimate union, that ultimate ecstatic union with the divine. So pranayam is a core element, a core aspect of achieving that samadhi. But it's also a core element of achieving physical health. We know that if you don't breathe right, the cells of the body aren't healthy. But we also know that the breath interacts with and impacts our emotional state, our mental state. Not only our spiritual state, but our physical state, emotional state, psychological state. Just by changing the breath, you can change the whole mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual experience that you're having in that very moment. One of the easiest ways of getting anchored and grounded in every moment, of reconnecting to the truth of yourself, no matter how angry or stressed or troubled you may be, is just anchoring in the breath. Coming back to the breath, as low in the abdomen as possible, as deep as possible. So just one simple way of breathing, a low in the abdomen, deep, slow breath, has the power to absolutely transform the moment for us. So working with the breath, whether in specific holotropic breathwork ways of accessing different aspects of our subconscious, unconscious patterning, transforming them, up to just working with the breath for minute to minute, moment to moment, peace and anchoring and grounding, to working with it for yoga, for health, it's critical. Absolutely critical.
Indeed. And here we thank all the people who brought breathwork in the way how we can take it to millions of people. And I have to remember my dear teacher Leonard Orr, Stanislav Grof, and so many others that make it possible to so many people around the world. Most grateful always for this gift. And for that, we are working with Dr. Eline Pedersen with research about the first breath. What does it mean, the first breath? And how does it impact our life? But we will talk more about that maybe later. So your book, your beautiful book, From Hollywood to the Himalaya.
Yeah, Hollywood to the Himalayas.
Yeah, Hollywood to the Himalayas. There is one part there, or the essence of your book is that, and see how that touched me deeply. Give me 1 second. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter where you're coming from. Doesn't matter your experience in life. Anything. God is available to you.
Yes. Yes, that was for me really the core impetus, the core reason for writing the book. Because so many people tragically feel like they're not worthy of grace. You know, we think that grace and the divine have all of these prerequisites. You can't ever be angry. You can never have a thought of greed or lust or jealousy. You better get up every day at 4 in the morning. You better make sure that you never yell at anyone, that you never do anything that you shouldn't do. You better make sure that you are full of just loving thoughts all the time for everyone. And that's a standard that almost no one can actually live up to. And so, since so many of our religious, spiritual traditions have somehow made people feel like until and unless they live up to these impossible standards, they're not worthy of grace. We've got the vast majority of people moving through the world feeling like somehow they're not good enough. And I realized it was so important to share my story and even to share the parts that before this moment I had never shared publicly. You know, as a spiritual leader, as a spiritual teacher, especially in the East, in India, in a tradition where it's sort of expected that spiritual teachers are those who pretty much came out of the womb enlightened.
Inmaculada.
Exactly, immaculate. Immaculately conceived, they came out immaculate. They had no inclinations ever toward lust or greed or jealousy or, decadence or fun. You know, the stories are always of these, almost always men, who pretty much from childhood knew that they were meant to live a spiritual life, that they were different. They were never interested in girls or parties or sports or anything like that. They just wanted to meditate. And then they attained awakening, enlightenment. And they're beautiful stories and they're so awe-inspiring. But they're not the stories that make us feel like I can do that. They're stories that make us want to bow down at the feet of the leaders who have lived like that. But they're not stories that make us think, I also can do it. Because we know I am not immaculately conceived. I didn't come out immaculate. I don't have, 10 minutes of immaculate thoughts strung together at any moment. And I knew that I needed to share my story because it's a story of someone who in many ways had a very normal California upbringing, full of all of the stuff that one imagines.
Temptations.
Exactly. And an engagement in the temptations. I mean, I was never someone who abstained from anything. I was never someone who thought that abstinence was even a virtue to be cultivated. So on the one hand, I had this very normal Los Angeles in the 80s upbringing,
Where freedom for us women is the most.
Yeah, exactly. Where acceptance was really kind of based on how you looked in a black miniskirt at, a party at 2 o'clock in the morning somewhere. But in addition to that, I also had a lot of struggles, challenges, difficulties. I had been through quite a number of struggles and challenges and suffering, trauma in early childhood, then into my adolescence. And I realized that people needed to know that they needed to know it so that when they look at me, they don't think that I was somehow cut from a different cloth.
Yeah.
That people don't look at me and think, oh, wow, she's she's so different than I am. She's so much more pure, so much more worthy, so much more divine. I wanted people to know I'm not cut from a different cloth. If I can have these experiences, so can you. That yes, I know struggle, I know pain, I know suffering, I know trauma, I know addiction, and I also know freedom and awakening and joy and bliss and consciousness. One does not prevent the other. And that if I can have these experiences of awakening, of transformation, of healing, so can everyone. And so the Hollywood to the Himalayas, of course, is my physical journey. Grew up in Hollywood, came at 25 here to Rishikesh just with a backpack. I was not consciously seeking or searching for anything. I wish I was, but I didn't even know that this world existed. Came with a backpack on a semester off of a PhD in psychology program. I had graduated undergrad from Stanford University and then was doing a PhD in psychology. And I had such a powerful transformation here. And I realized 25 years later that the details not only of the extraordinary experiences, but also of actually that which I needed to heal from, that all of that should be shared. The extraordinary divine experiences to inspire people of what is possible for them, and then the details of what I had suffered and how I learned to heal, to forgive, to let go. That this was so critical for people then to have the tools to walk their own path of healing and transformation. And that's why I always say, the Hollywood to the Himalayas was my physical journey. But regardless of where people are based, regardless of their physical location, journey, dharma, purpose of life, they can shift in their mindset, in their thoughts, from what I consider the Hollywood way of thinking, which is you are your body, you are your story, you are your history, you are your role, your relationship, that you are this story of the physical body, the psyche, to the Himalayan way of thinking, which says you have a body, but you're not the body. You are the...
Take care of it, administrate it.
Take care of it, keep it healthy, use it, love it, celebrate it. I mean, it's this physical body that enables me to behold a sunrise, a sunset, the eyes of a baby, the stars in the sky, the flowing Mother Ganga. It's the physical body that enables us to hug each other, to look in each other's eyes, but to recognize I'm not the body, I'm not the story, I'm not the history, I'm not the patterns of chemistry and electricity in my brain that we call emotions or thoughts or memories or feelings. I'm soul, I'm spirit, I'm consciousness, I'm love. And that shift is possible for anyone, anywhere. And that's really what the book offers that makes me so excited to share, is that way for people to walk their minds, if not their bodies, from the Hollywood way to the Himalayan way. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And for all of us that we are in this profession of the emotional well-being and the mental health fitness, for all of us, we know that this is our duty to be still holding this place safe for people, for our clients, for our patients to go and be able to move forward, because we're not trapped there. So in this moment, I just want to mention in this holy place Sasha Stephanie, Guillermo Ricken, and all the people, Gabor Mate, all the people who are doing wonderful things to heal trauma and to understand what does it mean to ride the spiral of emotion. And thank you so much for mentioning that. Doesn't matter who you are, you cannot be sit always in that place of gratitude, peace, and love. But don't get stuck in an emotion. Just keep riding this spiral, and you will see that there is a way out, and a beautiful way out. So, Anne-Marie Vorhove, who met you years ago in Mexico, I want to honor her with this question.
And we'll take this as the last question, if that's
This
okay.
is for you, Anne-Marie. Okay. Thank you so much for sending this question for our Sadhviji. What does the river say? Can we work together to connect the rivers in a co-creative stream and help us move forward in process of global water law?
Beautiful. Beautiful. And such a beautiful place to come back full circle in this beautiful conversation together, because the river, here we are on the banks of Mother Ganga. The river worshipped as the mother goddess. Ganga is not only a body of H2O. She is the goddess who flows forth from the Himalayas, carrying life and liberation and divine connection in her waters. And she teaches us so much. She says so much to us. She teaches us to flow, and to flow. Ganga flows 2,500 kilometers from up in the mountains at her source out to the ocean at Ganga Sagar. And she flows and flows without any discrimination. She flows for Hindus and Muslims, Sikhs, Jains, Christians, Jews, atheists, rich and poor, high caste, low caste, everyone. No discrimination. And she flows with no expectation. She's not saying, first you worship me, then I will flow for you. Here at ParmathNiketan, we have our beautiful Aarti ceremony, the lighting ceremony on the banks of the river each night. But tragically, in so many other places, people are dumping their trash in her. But she flows for all. There's no expectation. It's not, if you pray to me, if you bow to me, if you worship me, I'll flow for you, and if you don't, I won't. She flows for all. She flows with no hesitation. So she never wakes up in the morning and says, I don't feel like it. Not today. I need the morning off. And so it's a beautiful teaching for us in our lives of how can we flow. In that same way, giving and serving and flowing without any discrimination, without any expectation. It's not, what are you going to do for me? But it's, I flow because it is my dharma to flow. So without discrimination, without expectation, without hesitation. And she also teaches us such a beautiful message, because these 2,500 kilometers are so varied. There are places where the water is really deep, places where the water is really shallow, places where the riverbed is very wide, places where it's narrow, places where it's straight, places where it's windy, places where it's so windy that we've got river rafting over the rapids, places where there's big boulders. But she keeps flowing. She doesn't say, oh, forget it. Can't handle these turns, can't handle these rapids, can't handle these boulders. She just keeps flowing in every circumstance, every situation, to her destination. Because she knows, I've got to reach the ocean. And it's such a beautiful teaching that in our lives, obstacles come, there's twists and turns in our path. There's times where it feels very full and lush and flowing. There's times it feels very shallow. But we have to keep flowing toward our destination, which is that re-remembrance of our oneness with the divine. That re-remembrance of the truth of who we are. And not allow ourselves to get stuck along the way. And we take these lessons from Mother Ganga, but these are true of all of the rivers. All of the rivers, all of our water bodies. And so, as we take our water from them, as we take our beautiful moments of sitting on their banks from them, we should also take our inspiration from them, of that message of how to live our lives. They teach us so much. And of course, lastly, what they teach us is it's all one. Because ultimately, regardless of which river you come from, ultimately they all enter the ocean. And then ultimately they're all, again, ocean, right? I mean, the water flows into the ocean. From every river on earth, they enter the oceans. And then from the oceans, they evaporate up into the sky, and then they're carried, and then they're dropped, and then they flow in the rivers. Whether through mountain springs, whether through glaciers. But ultimately, it's all ocean returning to ocean, ocean returning to ocean. And it's such a beautiful reminder for us that our life is just constantly returning back to source, returning back to source, returning back to source. And lastly, as we shift just for a critical moment from that place of just spirit to the place of our incarnated human lives, it's critical that we take care of our water, that we take care of our rivers. Rivers are life. Water is life. Tragically, all over the world, our rivers are drying up. Our rivers are getting polluted. People living on the banks of rivers are suffering, getting sick and dying. The United Nations estimates that by 2040, the world will only have half the drinking water it needs. So as we worship rivers and love rivers and take inspiration from rivers, we've got to also pledge to protect and preserve them, to protect and preserve all of our water, because water is life.
Indeed. Thank you.
Of course.
And this month, you know, we celebrate women every day. We are so important. It's so important to take care of ourselves. We're key, we're fundamental for the family, for the community, for the society, for the whole. But especially in March, we do a little bit more of noise for us. We have to keep doing so the balance and the right come really globally. So my last question, I know we are running out of time now, is about this message for women. As a spiritual, powerful women leader, what's your message for us? Young, middle-aged, adult, older, doesn't matter. We're so unique, but at the same time, we're so similar.
As women, we need to remember, number one, first and foremost, that we are the divine. We are that mother goddess. We are that sacred creative power. In the Sanskrit language, the word for creation, shrishti, is feminine. Shrishti. The word for nature, prakriti, is feminine. And the word for the energy of creation, the energy of everything, shakti, is feminine. So the creation is feminine, the nature is feminine, the energy through which it happens is feminine. And of course, on a very practical, physical level, it is the woman's body into which the Creator, what in the Hindu tradition we speak of as Brahma, it's in the woman's body that the divine Creator has given that power of creation. Means that the divine basically said, I am going to do my work on earth through you. So as we, moan and groan about cramps each month or the inconvenience of menstrual cycles, to realize this is the divine energy flowing through us. This is the divine embodied in us. And it doesn't matter what size or shape you are. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what race or religion or sexual orientation you are. It doesn't matter. That mother goddess, that divine creative energy flows through you as you. Stop thinking that your value as a woman, that your worthiness of occupying your place on planet Earth is based on what you look like, how much you weigh, how well you dance, how well you sing, how funny you are, how popular you are, how padded your bank account may be, how padded your rear end may be, how padded your bust may be. I mean, really, stop thinking that that's who you are. And realize that we are that goddess. It's also critically important, though, to realize as well that as we speak about empowerment and rights, women's empowerment does not mean that we become men. Women's empowerment does not mean. उनको बोल देना कि वो बंद कर दें, हाँ? Just 1 second to get them to be quiet for a second. Right. Women's empowerment, women's rights, they don't mean that we are free to be men. Sadly, a lot of the movement around gender equality has seemed like it focuses on women's rights to do what men do, which is great. Obviously, we should have full rights to do whatever men do. But to recognize that, we are fully equal, but we're different. And a woman's highest goal, highest embodiment of the divine feminine is not how good of a man can I be, but actually how can I, in full recognition of our equality, embrace that difference. Embrace that uniqueness of me as a woman. We are not men. And we don't need to be men to be equal. And so as so many of us run trying to become and do the way that men do, we're actually harming ourselves. As women, recognize your dharma here on earth, your purpose here on earth is to embody this as a woman. And so how you move through the world is going to be as a woman. And to recognize how equal that is, how powerful that is, and how you don't have to do everything. Sadly for women these days, there's such a pressure that not only can we do everything, but that we must do everything. So yes, women can and should be CEOs of companies, presidents of countries, presidents of corporations. Yes, of course, we can and we should. But that doesn't mean that we should be doing that simultaneously to should be a stay-at-home mom raising, a house full of kids, at the same time that we should be planting and cultivating an organic garden and doing all of our yoga. And, we can't actually do everything simultaneously. And that doesn't mean that we are less than in any way. Part of the power of being a woman is, yes, I could do this, but I choose to do that. And to recognize that each woman is going to make different choices for herself at different times in her life. It's not more befitting of a woman or more empowered of a woman to head a company than it is to head a family. It's not more of a woman's place in the kitchen than in the boardroom. But one individual woman cannot simultaneously be doing everything.
As men didn't do either.
Of course, but I think as women we've got much more of the pressure that says you can and you should do it all. Do it all simultaneously, do it all at once. Perfectly, of course. Well, that goes without saying, of course. It must be perfect. We must be well rested, a good 8 hours of sleep at night. We must always look happy, always be nice, always be
fit.
So to realize, really,
Yes.
have compassion for the self, have love for the self. However your divine feminine is flowing through you in this moment. In a boardroom, in a kitchen, on a yoga mat, on a meditation retreat, on a pair of skis zooming down a mountain. None of them is better or worse or more or less fitting for a woman. It's all about your individual expression of that at any minute and every moment.
Indeed. Personally, I was raised by a woman. I lived with my mother and my sister, 3 women. I always thought we can do everything. This is how I grew up seeing. So we can do everything. The best version of ourselves today means not perfection. And this is what we're going in around the world saying, please, let's exchange perfection by excellence and by being grounded and enjoying what we can do, as you said, in the kitchen, in the garden, or in the boardroom.
I would exchange perfection for love. I would say, can we do whatever we're doing with love?
Yes.
Love for ourselves and love for all.
Definitely, definitely. So, well, I just thought about my mom. I know, just so emotional for me here, for you, Laila, also my sister, and all the beloved people in my life. I have felt you in this holy place, and I felt so, so lucky and so blessed. And thank you so much for your time and for this beautiful conversation for all of us around the world.
It was wonderful to have you here.
Yes.
So much love to you.
Yes. We will return. And thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Bye-bye for now.